Uncharted comes to us from director Ruben Fleischer and is based on the beloved video game series by Naughty Dog, who are also responsible for creating the likes of Crash Bandicoot and The Last of Us. While the Uncharted games typically follow adventurer Nathan Drake in his mid to late 30s, going on globe-trotting adventures, the film adaptation follows a younger version of Nathan Drake, played by Tom Holland, taking inspiration from the flashback sequences in Uncharted 3 and 4 to create an origin story for the character, exploring how he met Mark Wahlberg's Sully and their first big adventure together in a race to discover Ferdinand Magellan's lost treasure. Now, this movie has been in the works for over a decade, where names like David O. Russell, Dan Trachtenberg, and Travis Knight have all been attached to direct at some point, while Mark Wahlberg was even meant to play Nathan Drake originally. Instead, directing duties have fallen to Ruben Fleischer, who, aside from the first Zombieland movie, hasn't had a great track record. The first Venom movie he directed was a complete mess, and even Zombieland 2 was a letdown. When it comes to a game franchise like Uncharted, there's a certain caliber of quality that's expected, especially if you're adapting it into a film. I'll be completely honest, Uncharted 2 Among Thieves is my favourite game of all time. That game is honestly a better blockbuster than the majority of tentpoles that we've had over the last decade. The character work, the inventive action set pieces, and the presentation are all just outstanding, with an approach to storytelling that easily rivals the work of Steven Spielberg, and that's something that's present in all of the Uncharted games. Instead, we've ended up with a film that is more in line with a discount Michael Bay film. The Uncharted movie feels like it's trying to go through the motions of what people expect in an adventure movie, without really capturing the magic of what can make them special. This is a film that swaps that sense of wonder and mystery built up through the adventurous settings and musical score in favour of generic city locales and pop songs. Now, a lot of people were concerned with Tom Holland playing a younger Nathan Drake, and I'll say he's honestly one of the better parts of the movie. My concern was always with who was directing Uncharted over who would play Nate. Tom Holland definitely has the charisma that people expect of Drake, and there's a physicality on display here that he was never able to show off with Peter Parker. I especially appreciated how Nate and Sully mannerisms and references from the game, like "oh crap" or "well well well," were kept in the dialogue. Tom Holland occasionally goes a bit too hard in the action scenes, trying to make Nathan Drake a badass action hero, where really Nathan Drake is a guy trying to make the best of a bad situation. For me personally, I'm always in favour of adaptations standing on their own, and this movie really needs to be treated as its own thing from the games. But even I have to admit that with Uncharted, it is really difficult to separate characters like Nathan Drake from their original performers. Nolan North for me will always be the definitive Nathan Drake, because so much of that character is a combination of Amy Hennig's writing and Nolan North's improv and ad-libbing that made Nathan Drake so likeable in the games. And I won't lie, that Nolan North cameo is probably my favourite part of the movie. Instead, a lot of the character dynamics in the movie just feel manufactured, and that's as clear as day with Mark Wahlberg as Sully. Mark Wahlberg just shows up as himself and isn't really too interested in doing much with the character, barely resembling Sully until the post-credit scene. Even the banter with Nathan Drake, which I'll admit there are some fun lines, can often feel forced. There just doesn't seem to have been much care in how the characters were handled. Many characters are just introduced without any warning as well, where fan favourite characters from the games like Chloe Fraser kind of just show up. There's no attempt to create any build-up or intrigue around these characters, causing them to feel like generic stock characters. While I'm sure Sophia Ali did the best with what she had, that Australian accent is atrocious. I mean, it jumps all over the place. Not to mention her chemistry with Tom Holland feels non-existent. If Naughty Dog could get an Australian actress to play Chloe in the games, I'm not sure why Sony couldn't get an Aussie actress for the movie. And if making the characters younger meant all the sexual tension between Nate and Chloe from the games had to be removed, then was the origin movie approach really worth it? Tati Gabrielle is at least pretty decent as one of the major villains in the film, clearly having more fun with the movie than Antonio Banderas, who doesn't really have much to do outside of a few menacing lines. The movie's bread and butter is absolutely the action sequences, where the flying pirate ship battle in the finale is easily the most creative sequence in the film. A version of Uncharted 3's cargo plane sequence is recreated for the film as the centerpiece action sequence, and while it's a fun sequence to watch on the big screen, I wound up just wanting to play the sequence in Uncharted 3, where the action isn't toned down and choppily edited together and isn't backed by a completely generic score. The movie criminally underuses Nate's theme from the games, and I can imagine this came down to not wanting to pay composer Greg Edmonson for its use. Uncharted is best viewed as its own thing. The movie doesn't really resemble the games that it's based on, and might be more fun if you're unfamiliar with the franchise, as you won't be taking certain expectations with you into the cinema. Personally, I don't think Sony realised what they had on their hands with Uncharted, where elements like the Sam Drake story are thrown together with little thought. Instead of the Uncharted that gamers know and love, we've ended up with your average generic blockbuster. The best Uncharted movies have honestly already been made, and those are the games. Where Uncharted 1 and 2 captured the spirit of adventure in its purest form, before Uncharted 3 and 4 started deconstructing Nathan Drake as a character. This man who's obsessed with uncovering what's been lost to history and surviving in the face of danger. All I can do is be hopeful that a potential sequel takes what works in this film and have it align more closely with classic Uncharted storytelling, or at the very least bring in a director with a passion and vision for Uncharted, because a movie carrying the Uncharted name really needs to be better than this. Both the franchise and Naughty Dog simply deserve better than what's here. Uncharted gets a 5.8 out of 10 from me. Guys, I hope you like this review. If you want to see more reviews just like this one, stay right here for your mono fix. Bye guys.